Hello, this is the online reflection for the Lenten calendar for the Chorley and Leyland Methodists. We're getting closer to the cross in our Lenten journey towards the great mystery of Easter. And on my Lenten cross there are 6 lights that are lit. And we only have Good Friday and Easter Sunday to light. And today is Maundy Thursday, the day we remember Jesus and his disciples sharing the Last Supper before Jesus was tried and crucified. The scripture for today is from John 13, verses 1 to 17, and tells the story of Jesus washing his disciples' feet. I'm not going to read the whole scripture to you, but I encourage you to do that sometime today. Here are the verses, though, from verses 12 to 17. When he had finished washing their feet, he put on his clothes and returned to his place. "Do you understand what I have done for you?" he asked them. "You call me Lord and Teacher, and rightly so, for that is what I am. Now that I, your Lord and Teacher, have washed your feet, you also should wash one another's feet. I have set you an example that you should do as I have done for you. I tell you the truth, no servant is greater than his master, nor is a messenger greater than the one who sent him. Now that you know these things, you will be blessed if you do them." This scripture is one of my favorites. I'd say that, wouldn't I? Because I'm a deacon, and the bowl and the towel are symbols of the servant heart that Jesus showed to his disciples, and that is a very important sign for the deacons. But this story is so simple, so profound, that each of us should find ourselves in it. It may help us to remember the context of this story. They just finished the Passover meal, the meal where Jews celebrate God's salvation offered to them from the oppression of the Egyptians. And the other Gospels tell us that it was during this meal that Jesus took the bread and said, "This is my body, broken for you." And then later in the meal, he took the cup and said, "This is my blood, shed for you." Powerful stuff. You can imagine that the disciples were already a little confused and shell-shocked. What could he mean? I think they may have been asking each other what the others sort of thought he meant. You know, how you do when you don't quite understand what the speaker is saying. I imagine they were nudging each other and looking confused. You can imagine the scene. And then he gets up, takes off his robe, and begins to wash the disciples' feet. What? How crazy is that? So take a moment. If you were to imagine yourself in the story, where would you be? Would you be one of the disciples who let his feet be washed? Would you be like Peter, who protested because this was such a radical act? What would you be thinking and feeling? How would you feel when Jesus begins to explain why he has done this, like we read in the scripture verses I read? How would you feel? And that is what we need to recognize here. This was a radical act, one that was contrary to all customs, but Jesus performs it precisely because it challenged everyone's assumptions. As Christians, we're called to serve, to get down and dirty with those who need to hear the love of God the most. The Last Supper shows us intimately the kind of God we serve, and this act seals the deal. Our servant king wants us to wash one another's feet, to serve one another, to be willing to sacrifice, even when it's hard, so that other people might know how much they are loved. This is the most radical claim of the gospel. We serve a servant king, and only when we serve others do we live out the call that he has on our lives. What does that look like in your life? I have a new favorite song for Holy Week. It's called All the Room Was Hushed and Still by Graham Kendrick. These words encourage and challenge me every time I sing them and every time I serve others. May they be our prayer for today. This is the second verse of the song. Let the room be hushed and still. Let us go to where he kneels and join him as he serves and learn his ways of love. He said, "This is what I'm asking you to do. This is why I'm kneeling beside you. This is what I want my church to be. This is what I want the world to see. Who it is you follow. Love each other, one another. Love each other in the way that I have loved you. Walk together, and whatever comes, love each other in the way that I have loved you." May it be so for you and for me on that journey to the cross.